Okay, looks like everybody's ready to go. Welcome. Can you hear me? All right. We'll see if anybody else comes in here. Good. How is everybody today? Welcome. It is the first day of fall. Kind of crazy, huh? First day of fall just feels like summer was a blink of an eye. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Yeah, it doesn't seem, it was really hot here too yesterday. Very humid. Hopefully, we'll have a fall this year. Yeah. Let the festivities begin, right? Well, this is our week 4, you guys. This is the final week. Oh, okay. 20 degrees. Well, that's nice. We got a little rain here, but I think it's still kind of a little warm, which I don't care. I'm fine with that. I'd rather have that than like freezing cold. All right. Well, I went through a lot of your projects. It took me a while because I do have a lot of you guys in class. So if you haven't checked, I finished the last bit of critiques. I noticed some of you guys submitted a little late recently, so I will get to those as soon as possible. But you guys should have all of my feedback if you submitted your work in so far. If you received a 0 for any projects, please go ahead and read my feedback. I have to place the 0 in there. Even if you submitted, your file may need revised, excuse me, before I evaluate it further. So don't freak out. Once you read my feedback comments and make those changes, go ahead and resubmit that project as soon as possible so that you guys can get some points. So just want to give you a heads up. Just check in and see if anything needs to be revised so that we can get that going. And I can get feedback to you as soon as possible because this week we're basically all we're doing this week is we are, welcome Sonia, we are just kind of doing our revisions to every piece that we've done so far and getting it ready for to be placed on your Behance site as well. So you're just kind of making those changes that I have given you in the past 2 weeks to correct and submit. And then also you guys are going to be submitting that onto your Behance page. There's a lot of stuff that you guys are working on the past 2 weeks. So this is your time to kind of play catch up for those of you who need to. All right, just we're going to talk about a few things before we get right into the nitty gritty stuff here. But just, announcements. I noticed that some of you guys were wondering where the assessment 3 video was. We ran out of time. If you were in the lecture and you listened to the lecture from last week, we kind of ran out of time. I went a little bit beyond the 2-hour mark. So what I did was I actually posted the assessment demo in Canvas in announcements. Okay, so I usually don't post lectures here, but because it was an extra video that I did, I posted it here. So if you're wondering, hey, I had some of you email me and say, I didn't see the assessment video, it just got cut off. It's just because we ran out of time, but I did place it here. So go ahead and check that out. But normally, and some of you guys were asking about the first lecture that I do, and it's basically always in here and never moves. Go into live sessions and you go under the appropriate week. So let's say week 3, I had some of you say, I don't see the video here in Canvas. This is where it's at. So week 3, you need to watch the first pre-recorded session. And then week 2 is the one that I did. That it's posted here. It's a little smaller than the one above here, but they're always in this area in the live session area. So kind of don't let that throw you off that I posted the assessment to announcements. That was just because we ran out of time and I wanted to make sure you guys received that information. So definitely check out announcements. That's how I kind of communicate with you guys as well. CRAP, Principles of Graphic Design, just a couple of things we're going to talk about, just review. We're going to talk about, again, how to convert spot to process. I'll just go over just real quickly about that, just in case you need a refresher. Preparing document for print, we'll talk about that through your demo. And then we'll read through your final assessment. Well, actually, it's assignment. So your final assignment is your final project. And then your week 4 assessment is your quiz. And then if we have time, we'll have an open critique or, open help if you guys need extra help. Don't forget, and I had some of you guys contact me about extensions. Make sure you're getting this, any type of work in, even if you have week 1 and 2 work that you have not submitted as of yet, get that in as soon as possible before class is over for possible credit. I cannot accept anything past this Saturday's due date because grades will be needed to be submitted. So make sure you're getting that in before midnight on Saturday. All right. Don't wait till last minute to upload either. So, a few things to talk about and some things that I noticed in your brochure. Some of you guys did a great job with contrast. Some of you guys struggled a little bit. Just make sure you have definitely enough contrast for your body copy. I saw some issues where, there's color overlaid over the body copy where it's too similar to the hue of color of the body copy and it makes it hard to read. Or even in the background, something like a picture, is not contrasted enough, so it's hard to read the copy. And you guys are dealing with a lot of information for this brochure, so it's really important for you guys to make sure not only the other principles of design are accurate, like alignment, but also contrast for readability's sake. Another really important thing is that your logo is not getting lost. That has to be something that has enough contrast. If you can't see it, then it fails to be a brand, fails the recognition of a brand. So that's really super important that it doesn't get lost. Repetition, a lot of you guys did a great job with this, with elements within your brochure to kind of carry it through. Just make sure that your repetition is consistent. If you're using, for instance, certain size blocks behind your type, make sure that they're all consistently the same as far as not only alignment, but size, position, and space around it where you're applying your elements. If you have anything that's off in alignment, it's going to, with that type of a situation, in your grid structure, your, things will kind of really pop out glaringly. So we can see the mistakes really quickly and it kind of becomes, like it heeds the readability of your piece, because you go right to that. So make sure that you're keeping it consistent. I saw a lot of you guys too struggling with spacing. I know there's a lot of information, especially on the About Us panel. Make sure that you have some pauses, some visual pauses, spacing in between sections of type, like paragraphs, so that it's not running all together. If it's one lump, if it's a big lump of text for one panel and you don't have any visual breaks, it makes it harder to read because it all kind of runs together. And when people look at that, they don't want to read a big lump thing. It's like kind of overwhelming visually. So having those spaces help the reader, read through it easier. And that's where proximity comes in too, kind of grouping certain things together. Your headline should be grouped with your subhead and your body copy, and then you should have visual pauses in between each section so that you're able to balance things, and it kind of helps organize and emphasize certain parts of your brochure. And also, this holds true for your poster as well. So a lot of these things kind of think about all of your pieces. And we went over this the last time, limiting your fonts, you're keeping it simple, limiting your colors. You don't want to go too crazy with different fonts over a certain amount of fonts and colors. It just becomes chaotic and not very unified. So you want to keep it you know, simple. You want to keep it unified as a whole. If you're using certain colors in your mark, in your logo mark, you want to emulate that throughout your brochure so that it becomes more unified. Make it stand out, you know, make something different so that it looks unique and doesn't look like, you know, a cliche type of a brochure. And I saw some of you guys really pushing that with certain elements, so that's great to see. Does anybody have any questions about converting spot to process? Is everybody clear on how to do that? Okay, just a little review here. If you are kind of still trying to figure this out, make sure that you're, you know, going into your document. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So here I am in InDesign, and you can see in the spot color section in the swatches. If you go to swatches, you can see that these two colors, this green color and purple, are two spot colors. And you can tell that, and it's really small. I know you can't see it real good, but in the spot color swatch box, there's the green color swatch, and it has a little circle with a dot. And that's what tells you that that's a process color. I'm sorry, a spot color. See, now I'm getting confused. So a spot color is a pre-mixed ink, okay? This does not use CMYK plates. This is a pre-mixed ink that you pick out of a Pantone book. And these are a little bit more expensive because it is a pre-mixed ink. And these colors, you would use spot over process, say for instance, if you're doing a logo and you want that logo to be printed consistently on every single piece that you're printing out. It will not change color in any way. Now, when you go from spot to process, process is different. That's you're dealing with the 4 plates now instead of a pre-mixed ink. So you're using cyan, magenta, yellow, and black plates to create your print out of either your brochure or your logo. So it's cheaper, it's a less expensive process, so that's a benefit, but you can have shifting of color on a press. Say for instance, if you're printing a logo on a poster and you have like 10,000 pieces to print out, it might shift on press possibly, you know, because, you know, of the printing process. So it may not be super consistent. So that's kind of a disadvantage if you're wanting to keep it consistent, but it is inexpensive, more inexpensive than spot. So we want to know how to convert spot to process, because sometimes clients have, like, for instance, a logo. And I explained this last week when I worked for First Energy. They are an electric company in Ohio and PA up here. They used a specific Pantone color for their entire logo. It was like a blue 32 Pantone. But not all of their pieces that we created for them, they wanted to use that because it's expensive. So for instance, for their bill forms, like, you know, when you get your electric bill, they have their logo on that piece of paper in there that they probably wouldn't want to pay top dollar to for Pantone colors for that, because it's just like a bill that you just throw away once you pay it. So we had to convert that Pantone color that they were using on their logo to a process color because it's more, and it's less expensive. So how you would do that, and we kind of went over this last week, but I'll kind of review it again. And this is showing through InDesign. I believe I showed you how to do this in Illustrator too. So right here you can see this document has 2 spot colors. It's green and purple. And you can see a little bit easier now that they are spot colors because they have that little gray square with a dot. That's how you would know that they're a spot. Now, if you needed to convert this to a process color, what you would do in your swatch box, see those little lined, it's like 3 lines above on the very top panel. You're going to click that, select that, and you can select both of the swatches in the swatch window before you do that when you're ready to convert. And then you're going to select that little top panel button, and then you're going to go to your swatch options. You're going to change the spot to process in the drop-down menu. You can see here the before is on the left and the after is on the right. So you can see the color type says spot. That's that's how you know that's the spot color too. And then you're just going to drop down that drop-down menu and select process instead and hit OK. So what you'll see, before there was a little dot with a little square on the right-hand side of those colors. That's the before, and now you know it's converted from a spot to a process, because down below in the after picture, that little dot disappears. Okay? You can always change it back, but that's just how you would convert it if you had a project where you didn't need to use the spot. Any questions about that? Is that pretty? And like I said, that's through InDesign. I think I showed you how to do this in Illustrator the last time that we met up. It's very easy. It's just knowing the process, how you do it. Any questions about that, or are we good to go? You're good? Okay. So when you're doing your logo, you guys were asked to, in that, I think it was for week 2, you were to pick out the process color. You were supposed to do a 2-color variation and a 3-color. So you were supposed to pick 2 Pantone colors for the first example and 3 Pantones for the third example. And then you were to show the conversion from spot to process. So that's what you did in week 2. So if you had any questions about that, there you go. All right, so something to also check before creating a PDF, you want to make sure everything looks good. Obviously you want to make sure it's ready for print. So what you're going to do is you're going, and this is in InDesign, you're going to go to Window on the very top menu, select Output, and then you're going to go to Separations Preview. You can see it kind of nested down in there. Always check before making a PDF file for the final press output. So with spot colors is on the left. So you can see the green spot and the purple spot are listed at the very bottom. Now without, you won't see those, because that's showing you that you converted it to process. So you don't have those spot colors anymore. When you are converting your PDF for your brochure, you want to check for that. Make sure you don't have any spot colors. And that's how you would do it. Preparing your document for print. So some things to think about: check the following items. Spell check. Just do a quick spell check. Check colors. Make sure you don't have any Pantone colors in your final pieces, because what we're doing is we're going to act like you're sending this to the printer, and they're going to be printing it, CMYK process colors. You're going to check for missing links and images. Check for missing fonts. Check all bleeds and marks. Now, that's something very easily that you can do. Let me show you real quick. So obviously the spell check, everybody knows spell check, right? So I'm in InDesign. And spell check is under Edit in InDesign. You just go to Spelling, check Spelling. And it'll go through your document if you hit Start. And it'll check, mine doesn't have any, so I'm good. But it'll check. Definitely do that for your brochure too. If you go up to links in your window, this will show you, let me pull this over. This will kind of give you a breakdown of what your images in here are. So right now I have a lot of JPEGs, and I kind of explained this last week. We have some issues with size of file sizes when you're submitting to Canvas. So if I were to open this in a real life example and I'm ready to go send it to print, I would say, oh my gosh, I have 3 JPEGs in here. I need to convert to TIFFs, because TIFF files are really what you need to have in here for print for the best quality prints. JPEGs are more condensed files, so they throw out pixel information, so the quality of the image isn't as great. A TIFF file is, that's why they're bigger, larger files, because they don't throw out any pixel information. They're not a condensed file. JPEGs are nice because they are smaller, so the file sizes for your projects are smaller. And what I kind of suggested to you guys was know how to convert it to TIFF, and I showed you that last week. And you can, convert them and place them in here and save it as a second file. But if it's way too large, just go ahead and create another second file with the JPEGs to submit. And I'll understand, and I'll know, because I'll look at your JPEG sizes to know that you saved it and revised it at least. But this is where you would check to see if you have the correct files. You can actually click on and this is another thing that I can check too in your file to say, okay, you actually went into Photoshop and changed, see right here, I didn't do that. So color space is RGB, but for this one, the color space is CMYK. So this one I know I took into Photoshop and changed the color mode. This one I did not. So you can check your color space here as well. You can check the pixels per inch is 300. That's good. You want that to be 300, no less. But this is where you can find out more of this information here before printing. Any questions about that? And again, this is in InDesign. Okay. Fonts is another thing that, let me see here, properties box. There's another way that you can check this. And I think, hold on one second, go to normal mode here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see this. At the very bottom, it has like a little green circle. It says no errors. Check this. If it's red, obviously there's an error in your file. So you'll want to click on here. And this is where you can pre-flight your file to make sure everything looks good. So if you select pre-flight, if there's any errors, it's going to list it here that you need to change. Like for instance, say if you have an image in here that's not linking up correctly, it'll show here. So you'll need to change that. Oops. So that's something to definitely check out before you go ahead and package your file and create a PDF. Now, when you're ready to actually package your file and create a PDF, you're going to look for missing fonts. Oh, and your bleeds and stuff like that too. Let me go over that real quick here. Sorry. Just make sure, and I noticed some of you guys had the bleeds not the correct size. Go ahead and go up in InDesign and choose Document Setup. And your bleeds should be under here, and just make sure you have it as 1/8 of an inch, so 0.125. And then just make sure that this is the trim edge here. Just make sure that you have any images that bleed off or any type of solid color. You'll want to extend that out to the bleed. And that just ensures that it's trimmed. You don't have any weird white gap if the paper is shifted, if the printer is shifting the paper on the press, you won't have a weird white gap there if you have the image is supposed to go to the edge. So just double check that. Like for instance, I would say this would need to be pulled out. Because this one, there we go, so that's consistent. All right, and then when you're ready to package your file for your final, okay, so for this poster, if you go back, read my feedback. If you if you need to make any changes to it, go ahead and do so. But then also pre-check everything in there, like to say if your color mode of your images are correct, your pixel information is correct, image size is correct. You want to go to File, Package, and this is where you can check to see all your fonts, your linked images. If you click on fonts, it'll tell you what type of font is being used, if they're, you know, true type, open type, status is okay. You don't have any missing fonts. 0 missing, it says here. So if you were to have any missing fonts, say you downloaded and then something happened to it, where maybe you don't have it on your computer anymore, or you're having an issue with the font, it's going to tell you there. Links and images, again, this is where you can double check to see your color space mode and your file type, and if they're linked. If they're not linked, it'll show you there. Colors and inks. And again, this will show you, if you have any spot colors, it'll show there. Print settings, this is just pretty much everything in here, size-wise, orientation, all this other stuff you don't have to worry about. But when you're ready to go and everything looks good, then you're going to hit Package, and it's going to place it in a folder once you have these checked. You want to have everything checked except for the PDF. You can actually have this checked. It's just, I think the last week that we did this, we did a different PDF quality. If you want to select this PDF, just make sure that you have the press quality option selected, and then you're going to hit Package. And it's going to create a nice little folder with everything in it, and I'll show you that in a second here. So now my poster, this is the package that it puts it all in. So you can see I have my InDesign file here. This is just opening up. This, just to let you know, if you have your file open, it's going to show this double file here. So if I close it, this one will disappear. That's just telling me that I have it open right now. But this is your InDesign file. This is the native file that we're working in, the working file. This is your PDF. Go ahead and take a look at that. Double click on it. Make sure all the bleeds and, you know, crop marks are selected. Everything looks good. Just double click on that just to check. Fonts are in there. Links are in there. Everything looks good. And then to zip it, it's very easy. If you're on a Mac, you just hit Control click, compress, or select your folder and go up to File, Compress. And it creates a zipped file to submit. Any questions about that? And that was just, I did that kind of just showing you with the poster, but you're going to do that with all of your pieces. Okay. So always spell check before saving. Make sure all mixed colors are CMYK, including colors from imported files. Identify and remove all unnecessary colors from the swatch panel. You can delete those if you want. Add unnamed colors to the swatch panel. Use the swatch contextual menu. Spot colors should be converted to CMYK. So let me go back. Let me open up InDesign here real quick. So if you have any, let me go back to the poster again. Color swatches. So go ahead and go and open up your color swatch panel box. If you have any, you know, colors that you're not using, like for instance, this blue, I'm not really using that. I just kind of created this color while I was creating the poster. Go ahead and just delete it. I believe that these are all, yeah, colors that I didn't use and I don't need. So I'm just going to hit the little delete. Oh, there we go. And then I can see my red and my blue in there, and that's fine. So that's how you would do that. Do that with your brochure as well. Just make sure that that's simplified and you don't have all kinds of weird swatches in there. Again, look at image specs from your links panel. I showed you how to do that. Make sure the CMYK mode is selected. If it's not, if it's in RGB, you need to go into Photoshop to convert that. I showed how to do that last week. All Photoshop images should be 300 pixels per inch. I showed you that last week as well, how to change that. And again, Photoshop images should be saved as a TIFF, JPEG to eliminate layers from your TIFF file. You can use the LZW compression to make the file size smaller. Only use PSD when necessary. Fonts, make sure all fonts are free of any problems in the Find font box. Convert trouble fonts to outlines. We will do a demo of this. I could show you that too, because I think I did show you this in the assessment, but if you need me to show you it again, it's pretty easy. And that's something that you would do in Illustrator. Sorry, my infamous clock is going off right now. Okay, sorry about that. Bleeds and marks, make sure any item that needs to bleed off the page, I showed you how to check for that. And then printer marks are selected. So some things to think about when you're going forward to prepare it for print. Make sure that your document is saved, then go to File and Package. I showed you how to do that. Create a PDF and place it in your package folder. You can either do that or just select that little check mark that I showed you. Just make sure you have your bleed set at 1/8 minimum. Then you go to the zip. Now zip the package folder, which also contains your PDF, by selecting the folder and compressed file name, and then the zip can kind of zip that file. It is also what you need to send to printers via email when sending a job to the press. Some printers will have you do that, and some will say, we just need a high-res PDF. So, you know, there's different instances where printers may opt for a different type of a file. So it's always important for you to talk to the printer before starting the project, and then just seeing kind of what their process is. All right, so any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. Let's go to our discussion if you guys don't have any questions here. Okay. So if you go to actual week 4, it kind of just, you know, gives you your learning objectives for this week, what you'll be walking away from this week. And a lot of this stuff is kind of things that you've been doing throughout the 4 weeks too. So you're going to discuss the role color plays in the Big 4 design principles, identify and determine the appropriate use of lossy and lossless compression. We're going to be discussing that. Differentiate between additive and subtractive color models. Differentiate between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK models. Define primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. Tints, tones, and shades of color. You're going to identify the following color schemes. So complementary, triadic, analogous, split, complementary, monochromatic. Identify and apply correct resolution for print output. Distinguish the similarities and differences between raster and vector. Graphics. Set up margins, gutters, and bleeds in a document for correct prepress output. Create a packaged print-ready prepress file. A lot of stuff going on. Don't forget in your course media, and this is really important because you guys will have a quiz for assessment 4, and a lot of this information is in your quiz. So go ahead and scroll down to week 4. There's a required video to watch, so definitely watch that. I will be posting this video once this is done to live sessions. But textbook, here's your here are your required readings and videos for week 4. And again, like I said, you guys will be doing your, let me skip to that too. Your week 4 assessment. We'll be kind of covering all of this in here. So there's 10 topics of learning objectives covered. We kind of went over that just now. But basically the quiz is based on the readings. This is your assessment 4 quiz, videos and classwork. You completed this mod. There are 11 questions and it's not timed. So just kind of, it's 35 points. Make sure you're, you know, looking through all of your course media information first. and listening to that first lecture for week 4 before completing the assessment quiz. And it's a lot of stuff that we went over from week 1 to until now. Don't forget, career integration quiz is also something that is another graded quiz. It's 15 points. I think this is kind of like a no-brainer, something that, you know, obviously you don't want to skip. Also, just make sure it is you're answering specifically with this class and not making very vague answers. You know, talk about each project when you reflect upon each question in this class. What did you learn? What did you hope you would learn? Maybe something that you wanted to learn that you didn't learn. So you can, you know, definitely be specific to this class when you're answering those questions. It's part of the reflection part of your process, your design process. Every designer should include that in their process steps. So in the working world, you should reflect on the project that you did, you know, once it's complete. You need to look at what you learned, what you could change to make better, and kind of reflect back on that project altogether to improve upon the next project that you do. And typically in the working world situation, you will sit down with either your boss or your project manager, and you will go over stuff like that. So that's super important. All right, in your discussion this week, also you have a discussion. We're going to be talking about lossy and lossless images and the differences between them. So if you're not familiar with that, you definitely want to check out this video. I'm going to play this in a second. It's only like 4 minutes here. But what you're basically going to be doing is you have a prompt, and it's talking about how you're working with the client from week 3. You've gotten the job and have recreated your logo as a vector file. Excuse me. You are now ready to move on to work on brochures, billboards, and more. The owner of the company points you to their website once again for assets, telling you that the website is the only place they have photos to use, right? Because that happens. So for your initial post, please address the following questions. Will these photos work for your projects you have been hired to do? Why or why not? How do you explain your dilemma to the client? How does lossy and lossless compression figure into this? So think about this. I'm going to play this real quick for you guys, and then we'll see if you have any questions here.
Hi, I'm Stacy Reed, bringing you this Butterscotch.com video tutorial about image compression. Understanding image compression is really just a matter of thinking in numbers. The number of bits that are stored and the number of pixels that make up the image are both key factors. An uncompressed image with a resolution of 640 by 480 has 307,200 pixels total. A true color image of that size would take about 1 megabyte of storage space, considering that each pixel uses 3 bytes. Now, the file size increases with the image resolution. So let's say that we have a true color image that's 1024 by 768. It's going to take about 2.5 megabytes of storage space. Now imagine that you have a few of these 2.5 megabyte files on your server, and they're being downloaded by everyone who visits your website. You would probably use up a lot of bandwidth very quickly. Thankfully, though, we can compress image data to make the file size smaller while retaining the height and width dimensions of the image. We're using OrphanView, but there are a lot of programs that can convert and compress your images with ease. In fact, most image editors can do so. Also, most digital cameras nowadays compress your images automatically, so you can store more images on your camera and then move them to your computer much quicker. When you compress an image, it's done in one of 2 formats, either lossless or lossy. Think of it in terms of data loss. Lossy files lose data, and lossless files retain the data. Allow me to explain a little further. Lossless formats like TIFF, bitmap, and ping use algorithms that save the image with maximum image quality. Unfortunately, the compression ratios are quite a bit weaker than lossy formats, so the end result is a larger file, but the quality is going to be well preserved. That's why images that will be printed are usually saved with lossless compression, because the integrity of that image is much more important than, say, displaying it on an internet site. Lossy formats like JPEG discard information when they're saved. The amount of information that gets discarded directly influences the size of the file. It's also important to note that when you save a lossy file, you can never go back to the previous state. Each time the file is opened and saved as a JPEG, it's going to lose more and more data, which will cause the image to become pixelated over time. The reason for this is that pixel data is trashed during compression. So when the image is reopened, the computer fills in the missing data by borrowing from neighboring pixels. So looking at these images as an example, you can see the visual artifacting occurring most in the image that has been saved with the highest compression. You may hear of this being referred to as pixelation. So basically, you kind of have to choose between either compromising your file size or compromising file quality when you're choosing image compression. If the file is to be placed on your website, consider how often people will download the file and how much strain that's going to put on your bandwidth allowance. But if a file is too large, it could take longer for your web page to load, and most people won't stick around to see it. When in doubt, choose a compression ratio that's somewhere in the middle and save it as a new file. You can always open it and see how it looks, and if you don't like it, open the original file again and compress it until you get it just right. So now you know a little bit more about lossy and lossless images and the basics of image compression. This is Stacy Reed with Butterscotch.com, signing out. Bye for now.
Okay, any questions about that? It kind of gives you a better idea of what we're kind of dealing with in this discussion. When it comes to talking to your client, they want you to go to their website to take their images off to use for their projects. How does lossy and lossless compression figure into this? How do you explain this dilemma to your client? So kind of you might want to brush over the facts that she just talked about. Talk about the compression, print versus web resolution, color, and then which file type is best for the job. Any questions about that? Did anybody ever hear of lossy and lossless before when talking about compression? Or is this the first time? Maybe you took a photo class, photography class. Something to think about when you're dealing with imagery. No? Excuse me. Ooh. Okay, good. So you've heard of it before. You probably heard of it, maybe and just needed a recap of what that's all about. So basically, you're just going to kind of discuss how you would talk to the client about this possible dilemma of using images from their website, kind of like we talked about last week with the logo. So it's kind of similar, although you want to talk about the compression issue with lossy and lossless. Good. Okay. All right. So that's your discussion. Go ahead and get that started as soon as you can. That way you guys can gain as much as you can from the feedback and responses. And the next thing is your assignment. And this is basically your final campaign press ready file that you'll be getting ready for your final project. And go ahead and read through the background here. It just talks about compression and file types. So basically this assignment is to prepare you for the correct way to send files to printers. The design revisions you receive from me would be what a client may tell you. So these must be fixed before sending it to press, or it will be very expensive reprint for the designer. Look at my feedback on the technical issues and fix anything that was, or everything that was noted. Learning what needs to be sent to the printer correctly the first time will save you time and even money. If your files are not set up correctly, the printer can fix them, but they will charge you and it will be in addition to the bid. So you will have to pay for those fixes, not your client. You must incorporate design and technical revisions per instructor feedback on the following projects from this mod. So you're going to take your week 2 poster, make any necessary changes to that, your week 3 brochure, and your week 3 signage. Your pre-press requirements. So for the poster and the brochure, all images converted to the correct color model. So it should be all converted to CMYK. All images placed at correct resolution for print. What's the correct resolution for print? Does anybody know? And it's pixels per inch. 300, perfect. Images not scaled above or below industry standard. I showed you how to check for that last week. All images saved with the appropriate file type. We just talked about that. What should they should be saved out as what? What file type? For print. TIFF, perfect. Just like a little recap though, if it's too big for this particular Canvas upload, go ahead and save it out as high-res JPEGs. Good, perfect. Bleeds correctly implemented, margins and gutters properly positioned. So things to pay attention to. Signage. This is for the sign that you created that's it's 10 feet by 4 feet, but you guys converted it to inches, so it's 10 inches by 4 inches. Your logo and text colors correctly set for spot color output. So that should be spot color, not process. Aspect ratio for enlarging is correct, and all elements are properly created to fully scalable for enlargement. So your signage, you created in Illustrator, that should be your Pantone colors, not your spot colors, not your process. Okay. So your submission requirements for your poster and your brochure, you're going to create a package for print file out of InDesign. I already showed you how to do the poster, so I'll do the brochure next. You will also do a press quality PDF for both of those, and I already showed you how to do it for the poster. Signage will be your native Illustrator file, so that will be your AI file, and your press quality PDF will be 2 files that you'll need to submit. And then you're going to create a folder, and that folder will be assignment 4, first and last name. And you're going to place all of 1 to 3, so all of this, into that folder. And you are going to name that folder this name here. You're going to zip the folder next and upload the zipped file. And that's what you guys will be doing for this final assignment for submission. Now there's a little note in here. It says if the zip file is too large for Canvas to upload, place the PDF into the package folder and zip each one separately. So the sign would have the PDF and AI file compressed together, and the name would change to, and then they have, each individual files would be, they wouldn't all be in one zip file, they would be separate if the one big zip file cannot upload. Okay. And that, again, that's why I was saying with those TIFF images, you might want to just note, have a version of it, how it should be, and then do another version with the JPEGs so that, you're not having issues with size. The next step, does anybody have any questions about that, 1 through 6? And I'll go through it with your brochure so you can see those steps with the brochure. You're going to try and get it all in one zipped folder, but if you can't, you can upload individual zip folders for these for assignment 4. No questions? Okay. The quietness, I'm going to just say nobody has any questions. Okay, create web-friendly JPEGs. This is the next step. So after you're done doing that and submitting it, you're going to create web-friendly JPEGs of your campaign and upload them to your Behance site. And then you're going to email your FPA with a link to the project, and you're going to CC me on that carbon copy. Okay, so I'll go ahead. I already showed you the poster, so I'm going to show you how to do this with your brochure here, as far as compressing it and getting it all ready for submission. So again, see if you have any errors. I'm going to do a spell check. I'm going to go read comments. Skip through here. Looks good. I'm going to read through any comments that I have and make changes to this. I'm going to get rid of any colors in here that I'm not using in my swatches. Let's see. What red did I use? That one's gone. CMYK looks good. Okay. And then I could also get rid of like all this stuff up here. That's just for us. We need to be shown for purposes of, oh, let me make this white here. So the AI file should, and I'll show you that in a second, that should just be your signage. And I'll show you that in a second here. Good question. All right, just go ahead and check your bleed. It looks good. Save. What else? Okay, when I'm ready to package this, I'm going to go to File Package, Brochure, and I'm just going to check to see if everything looks good. Font's good, linked images. I have one RGB. Oh, there's another RGB one. I'll have to. This one actually is okay. It's not RGB, it's CMYK. I have an RGB. Oh, my logo. If you have a ping file, that's fine. Just ignore that RGB. Everything else should be CMYK. It looks good. CMYK, and I have a lot of TIFFs except for one JPEG. And that's okay. If it's a large file, just go ahead and put the JPEGs in there. But TIFFs are, like I said, what you need to do in real life scenario there. Everything looks good. I'm going to hit package, and I'm going to include the PDF, and I'm going to choose press quality, and then save it to my desktop. Yeah, I'll get to that signage here in a second. Give me 1 second here. So I just packaged this, and I'm ready to take a look at it. So this is my poster, and then this is my, and I should probably rename this here. This is my brochure, but we're going to name one folder this name here, and I'm going to place this on my desktop. So this is the main folder. I'm going to compress this. I'm going to go to File, Compress. And that is my brochure again. So here we go. So this is my poster. This is the zipped folder that I just did for my poster. This is the zip folder for my brochure. And this is my final folder that I'll stick everything into in a second here once I get my signage done. So the next thing, so I did my brochure. Now I'm going to open up the signage. And I think I did that here. Did I have this open? Let me see. Just give me 1 second, guys. My computer's freaking out on me here. There we go. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. So this is what your signage should look like. Well, this is the logo. Actually, my signage is not like this. Hold on. That's the logo. I wanted to show you guys something before we go into the signage here. Okay, give me 1 second. I thought I had all this up, but I guess I didn't. Like the signage. I thought I saved my signage, but it looks like I didn't for some reason. Interesting. Okay. Well, I might have to do that again. I could do a search too. Hold on 1 second. Let's do a search. Sorry, guys. Let me 1 second here. I just want to make sure I have this all correct. Week 3. Oh. Got it. Sorry, guys. It is an AI file here. I just had to do a quick search. All right, so open up your signage. That was the logo that I showed you earlier. This is the one that I did for the demo. And just make sure, and mine might not be, let me check my colors here. I'm in Illustrator. Let me go to colors, swatches. No, mine aren't spot. Make sure that these are spot colors. So see how, I'm going to show you here in a second how you can check for that. Ungroup. Okay, so I'm going to select just this color of my blue in my logo, and I go right to my swatches and see how it says it's Pantone, but right next to it doesn't have that little dot. That's how I know it's not spot color. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to change, I just double clicked on that little gray square. I'm going to change process to spot and click OK. Same thing with the red. Nope, not there. Spot color, click OK. And then what you can do is just get rid of all these other swatches here. I'm going to delete that. There we go. So I just did a shift select and deleted them. So now this should all be converted to Pantone. So what you're going to do is if this didn't have a little dot in there, that's process color, you want to make it a spot color. So you just double click on that little square, and it used to be process, you want to change it to spot. Does that make sense? So you want to have a little spot in there. If it's showing as a spot color, then you don't have to change it now. Yep. I just wanted to show you how to check for that, and I noticed mine was not spot color, mine was process, so I had to change it back. The next thing is, do you guys know how to create outlines for your type? This is the next step. So you're going to do a select all. Okay, select all. And then you're going to go under type and choose, oh, it's not gonna let me do it. I already did it, so it's not showing me anything. I'll show you real quick. I'm just gonna type something out so you guys can at least see it. I already created outlines, so it's not gonna show it in the menu box, but you'll do a select all, then you're gonna go under type, and you're gonna say create outlines. And it's gonna take it from a font to a shape. Okay. And then when you're ready to, so this is the AI file that you'll need to include in your folder. And then you'll also need to include a PDF. Before you do anything, if you have, see how I have white over here? It's like a white, bleeding off white. I would suggest just making a square the size of your layout. Give it a thin border of black. So here we go. Here's a black little, and I'm going to go up to stroke here. Make sure that's thin. And I'll do like 0.5. Before you save this out as a PDF, do that little thick border or thin border, because when you go to export this out as a JPEG for your Behance site, you'll get to see the edges, especially if you have all white around here. You won't be able to see the edges, so it's important to see that. All right, so now you're going to export as a PDF. So export as, actually no, cancel, sorry. File save as, it's a little different in here, and choose PDF. Now for this one, when you go to save as, let me do this again, desktop PDF, click save. You can look under your marks and bleeds, and you can choose trim marks and registration marks and use document settings and save. Okay, so now you want to check your PDF, make sure it looks good. So let me do that in a second here. This is my ultimate folder. Where did I save that? I must have saved this in the wrong area here. Hold on. Desktop PDF. That looks good. Oh, here it is. So this is the PDF. Just go ahead and open it. It looks good. These are all the trim marks that look great. So just open the PDF, just make sure it looks good. And then the AI file that you saved, which I think it's be hidden over here somewhere. Where's my AI file? Which is the Illustrator file. I'm going to save this again, save it to the desktop. You're going to include that as well. Right here. So here's the AI file and here's the PDF. So that's your signage. Okay. You can create a zipped for these two. You just select both of these and go File, Compress, 2 items. And then you can rename this. There we go. So this is kind of like the compressed part of these 2 files. And you can put this in a folder too if you want, like you did here. It's, I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing. Hold on. Sorry. There we go. So all I did, if you missed that, just select these 2, shift select, go to File, Compress. I made this zipped folder of these 2 files. You can put it in a folder if you want, like, you know, you can create a new folder if you want. Name it this if you want to keep it consistent with how these other ones are. So this is your, what is this? This should be your poster, this is your brochure, and this is your signage. This is the final folder that it says to, and I'll go back to our instructions here, to name this final folder, and you're going to put 1 through 3 into this folder. Okay? So all you would do is take all your zipped files, not your other folder, just your zip files, and stick it in this folder. So all 3 of these zip files are in here. These zip files contain these folders. That's why you don't have to put those folders in. It's just the zip files. Now you can check to see how big your file is now that you put this into your final folder. Just do a Command I, and it'll show you your megabyte size. So this is 77.5 megabytes. That's pretty big. If you have issues, and I would, you know, obviously you can submit this folder, you can zip this folder, you can compress this one. So I'm going to compress this one before you submit it. So you just have one file to submit. Let me see if that made it smaller. No, it's the same. You're going to submit this. If you have issues submitting this zip file that contains all of your zip folders, if you have issues with that, just submit these separately then. Okay, so you would submit that one for assignment 4, then the next one you would submit for assignment 4, and the next one for assignment 4. Does that make sense? So you're not doing it all in one, you're just kind of doing it separately. That's if you have issues. Okay. Any questions about anything that I just went over so far? And the last part of this is pretty easy. If you have a Behance site, you already kind of know the steps to this, but I'll show you really, it's pretty easy. Pretty much what we're doing is number 7, you're gonna create JPEGs of your campaign, and you're gonna upload them to Behance, and then you're gonna email your FPA a link to the project, and you're gonna CC me on that. So that's step 2 of this project. So I would start, let's go with your poster first. Go back, open up your poster. You could start with whichever. I just decided to do my, where's my poster? Here it is, okay. Go ahead and go File, and you're gonna go Export, and you're gonna save it as a JPEG. And I'm just gonna save it randomly on my desktop here. And I think I'm just gonna name this poster so that it's easy for me to know what it is. I'm gonna save it to my desktop as a JPEG and click Save. All of this information looks good. Maximum quality, 72 dots per inch is fine. RGB is good. We're just gonna be viewing this on screen. So we don't have to worry about high resolution or CMYK at this point. Go to, and that's all you do. So I just put that right on my desktop. And let me try to clean this up here so you guys can, here's the poster right here, JPEG. I can double click on it and take a look at it. Looks good. And what I would suggest is create a new folder and just name this Behance, or, you know, the name of the class Behance, and go ahead and put that in there because you're going to be creating more JPEGs here. All right, so once you're done with that, open up your brochure in InDesign. Go File, Export. Same thing. JPEG, save. All pages, export. Go check it out. It should show 2 PDFs, or I'm sorry, JPEGs. There's one JPEG, and there's the other JPEG. Looks good. Throw those in the folder. And then signage. File, save as. Oh, I'm doing this always backwards. File, export as. We're in Illustrator, so it's a little different. And then just go ahead and click on JPEG. I'm gonna do sign. RGB looks good. Maximum of 8 is fine. I would highly suggest you guys put the border on here because you guys won't have trim marks. So make sure you have that thin black border if you don't have any, like if you have white kind of going to your edge. Because that way, when you see it on your Behance page, and it's hard to see here because you have black as your artboard, you'll get to see where that trim edge is. But there's the JPEG there. And I'm going to throw that in my Behance folder. So here's my Behance folder. And then I'm going to go and log into my Behance website. Most of you guys have one, right? Correct? Behance. If you don't, it's free. You just go to behance.net, sign up. I do have a lot of my work on here, so it looks a little different. It probably look a little different than yours. Good. All you have to do is once you create your profile, create a project. And you're going to upload all of those JPEGs that you just exported. So you can kind of start here. You can either hit this little file button here or go on the upper left-hand corner on the left side here and say upload files. And this is why it's nice to have a little folder so that you can select all of your pieces here. And then it uploads your files. Now you can reorder these if you want, say, your signage to be first or your poster. You could reorder this. I think, let me zoom out here. There we go. Yeah, I think you could just like drag this up. I'm not sure. Let me see here. Unless you hear replace image, reorder project. Okay, that's where you do it. So you upper left-hand corner, you say reorder image. So say if you want your signage first, go ahead and just drag that up, poster second, save new order, and it should save that in order. The one thing I did want to show you, and I probably should put like a border on this one because I have white space under this, but the border on this signage you can see nicely is added in there. The only thing I would do on the bottom of my poster, I probably would do like a thin border too here. Okay, when you're done, click save. Or continue. Continue will let you go to the next step here. And it's going to ask you to pick like a thumbnail, and then you can name the project here. So you could use the Aqua Excursion branding. Did I spell that right? Aqua Excursions. And let me put a space in between here. So you can kind of play around with cropping that if you want. Should we include a 0.5 border on the poster as well? If you have like a lot of white space around it, I would suggest it, but if not, don't worry about it. It's just to see like the border if you don't have any type of elements around. Branding, graphic design. I think you can pick like 3 keywords here. A color, if we have a color. Let's do advertising. And then tools used, you could just put like the Adobe Creative Suite because we use a lot. We used all 3 there. Everything looks good. I can publish it. Once I publish it, it's going to give me a link right here. And this is the link that you're going to copy and paste into your email to your FPA, and you're going to CC me on that. That's carbon copy. Okay, so go ahead and copy that, paste that in there. You can also paste this in the submission area of your assignment 4. You know, when you go to submit all your zips or your zip file, you can post that there too as well. Just make sure you are emailing your FPA and CCing me on it as well. So don't just rely on posting it to your assignment 4 written area. And if you don't know who your FPA is, please email me. I'll look it up for you and let you know who it is. If you go back to your front splash page of your Behance, you can see your thumbnail here, and you can click on it if you want to view it, all your pieces. So go ahead, take a look at it before you send that link. If anything needs changed, you can edit it at any point very easily. There's a little cog here. You can choose edit. If you want to get that URL information again, just hit promote and it'll give you your link again. So if you missed that in the beginning, that's how you would get that. Any questions? You can also delete it too if you want to get rid of it. If you have to totally redo it, you can delete it completely. Any questions about that? So that's step 7 in your steps here, and that's the very last part of your project. A lot of information, but I think it's just kind of going through these steps. You have to go through them very methodically, but then once you're done, I think it'll be easier than you thought it would be. Just kind of getting those revisions done first is important, and then just kind of double checking all of your work is the second thing to do. And then exporting it out correctly, with the packaging part, is it also important. Any questions about any of that? Yeah, so you're basically taking any type of feedback that I gave to you, changing anything that needs to be in your signage, your poster, and your brochure. And then you're going to submit that packaged file or packaged files to your assignment 4. Oops. I just totally went too fast there. So you're going to submit it to your assignment 4, your zipped folder. And then you're going to do the second part, which is your Behance, and you're going to email your FPA and CC me on that. So that's all part of the grade. Yep. All right, guys, I got to the end of what I needed to tell you guys. If you need me to help you with anything extra, we have some time here. If you want any other review of anything, let me know. If you want me to go over anything again, I can do that. And don't forget, I will be here tomorrow for that multi-session that we have every week. So if you're working on this and you are, stuck on something or need extra help or feedback, I will be around the same time as we meet today, just tomorrow. So I'll be in for 2 hours for the multi-session. So don't forget that I'm also there at that time. Anybody have anything they want to show? Oh, thank you. You too. You guys can go off if you want. We can end a little early here and get started on your projects. If not, if you have any questions, let me know. All right. I guess that's we're all good to go then. I'll take the silences. We're good to go. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed this. I'm excited to see everybody's projects. So like I said, I'll be here tomorrow. If you guys need extra help, come on into the multi-session. I'll be hanging out for 2 hours from 9:30 till 11:30 Mountain Time. Come on in and let me see your work if you need extra help. Have a great day. Thank you.